he said, leave me alone, please, go away. I don't want to hear this stuff. Okay. And, so what happened, the turning point in this whole thing, his dog fell in the river once and he was drowning, and he loved his dog. So he jumped in to save the dog, and then he started drowning too. And he said to the angels that were constantly talking to him, he said, look, okay, I'll do you a deal. If you save my life, I will actually start listening to you from now on. And they did. They saved him. He miraculously got out of this river somehow. And so from that point onwards, he listened to the voices inside of him. I have a song about this. It's called The Voice. You should check it out. It's on YouTube.
I've listened to that one too.
Yep. Oh, thanks. The voice inside your head, because it usually tells you it's usually words that from higher beings that are trying to advise you. And we don't listen, we listen to it, but then we double think it and do what we rationalize as the right thing, but it's usually not the thing that the voice told us to do. So anyway, so what happened is he started to, help people who were sick. People were contacting him and said, look, there's something, I got this and that. And then he would listen to the voices and say, this is what you got to do. And, most, like 99% of the time, it was absolutely correct, and the people became healed. So he became known as a really incredible healer. And he always said, it's not me. I'm just doing what I'm listening to. So that's why I wrote Merry-Go-Round, because in that book, he talks about the fact that we're on this pharmaceutical thing, which is just, the pharmaceutical companies are making billions and billions all the time.
Yep.
I can't even tell you how much they made from the COVID epidemic. It's just absolutely phenomenal amount of money. And they're not really interested in healing. They're only interested in, if you like, pharmaceuticals cover up the symptoms, but they're not interested in the source of the illness. They're only interested in fixing the symptoms. But unfortunately, fixing the symptoms has all kinds of side effects. So you find yourself taking a pill for this, and then you've got to take another pill to counteract the side effects that the first pill's given you. So if you go in the average person's pill cupboard, especially older people, because they're more fragile, you go in their pill cupboards, they're like filled with pharmaceuticals. And they're making so much money out of this, and it's just tragic. And that's why I wrote the song Merry-Go-Round, because we're literally on a merry-go-round with this whole thing. We're told stuff by our doctors, which is not necessarily true. But I don't. I'll just put this right. State this for the moment. I don't advocate substituting science and medicine, with so-called naturopath medicine. I think it's not alternative medicine I'm talking about. It's complementary or supplementary. In other words, I don't think we can throw away, hundreds of years of science, but we need to move away from just totally relying on pharmaceutical and chemicals. That's why I wrote Merry-Go-Round. It's going to come out with a really great video later this year, so look out for it.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely will be.
But to get back to what you were saying about like the angels and all that stuff, like my grandmother was a healer. She could heal people over the phone. So like she's taught me things that most people don't understand, don't get. And I mean, I've always listened to the voices, and it's usually not led me very far astray. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear you say that.
Well, I mean, it's just something that's been passed down from my family for generations.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much worth in taking what I call raw living food literally from a garden.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of grannies and people in the older previous generations, if their kids got sick, they would go and get herbs from the garden, give them to them, and it would work, And there's an institute in Florida called the Hippocrates Institute, and they I've never been there, but my ex-girlfriend, who's a psychotherapist from Paris, she went there once. She told me some incredible stories that there's a guy with a tumor, the size of tennis ball in his throat, and they couldn't remove it because it's all intertwined with blood vessels and stuff around his thyroid and everything. So he was kind of medical profession was not working for him. He was kind of literally, on his death list,
Mm-hmm.
He went to this place, and I'm not advocating for this place, but I'm just giving you an example. What they do is they give you raw living food diet. So they grow sprouts and stuff in other words, when you eat a herb or a flower or plant or whatever, if it's still got its vital life force in it, in other words, if you literally pluck it up from the garden or cut it off or whatever and ingest it, it has this vitality in it, which it doesn't have if it's been preserved in any way. For example, if you eat a tin of spinach, you open the tin, any life force that may have been in that spinach would just evaporate into the air and it's gone, right? So the vitality's gone. So you're eating essentially a kind of a dead food, except for the mineral content, which spinach has iron in it, so that's still retained because it's a mineral. But the vitality, the thing that creates and that aids good health, has gone. So this institute in Florida, they give people pure, nothing but raw living food. So to get back to my story, which is a true story, because it's not something I read in a book. It's something I heard from a person that actually experienced it, who I trust. This guy, after literally 2 weeks at this institute on the raw living food diet, his tumor just like literally disappeared. It's a miracle, in some term. I mean, there's loads of stories like this which you can get now, but I particularly was touched by this story because it was a direct recount from somebody that experienced it. It's not like something I read in a book or on a conspiracy theory site, or whatever. So, right. so it's, I believe in the, if you really want to know what I believe, I believe that we are spirit beings in material bodies here to experience. So we are literally energy matrix beings. We're made up of billions of atoms. Okay. And so if you get into that matrix, which makes those atoms work and makes us alive, you can actually create anything. And that's how placebo works. You've heard of placebo, right?
Yes.
You can get you can give somebody they did there's lots of research information about placebo. One research information I can tell you about was that there were 100 people with knee injuries, and they gave them all operations. It's a research. They operated on all of them, but 50% of the people, they didn't actually do anything. They just literally opened up their knee and then sewed it up again, right? Literally all the people recovered, including the people that had nothing done to them. It's because they believed that they had been cured. And that's why you could hear stories. You go into your doctor and your doctor says, oh yeah, take these drugs. Now it's not the drugs that's curing you, it's your faith in the efficacy of those drugs. The fact that you think that's going to cure you, that's actually what does the magic. So we are, as you said, as I told you earlier, I believe we're spirit beings, and I think we have enormous potential. We can literally heal anything, but all it takes faith. You have to have faith that you can get better.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that work so many times, on a personal level. So I believe I believe in that idea.
So what would have been some of your biggest challenges in the music industry coming up?
Oh, we're talking about music, yeah.
Yes, going back to music.
Well, music is for me is a universal language, so it's very, very powerful in affecting change in many ways. One of the biggest challenges we're facing right now is that there is no money to be made in music. There used to be. I'll give you an example. When I was producing records in the 80s and 90s, one of them was Sinead, for example. The sales of that record brought me in upwards of $5 million in royalties, right? All the stuff I'm producing now, I don't get any royalties because nobody is paying for anything. It's all downloaded for free. So there's a financial situation happening now in music. people like producers and even songwriters and artists are not actually making any money anymore, which is, on the surface, is really bad. But there's also, every stick has two ends. There's a good side and a bad side to everything. Now, one of the good sides to all this is that the music business used to be controlled by what I call, excuse my terminology, but what I call sharks. In other words, they're people who are attracted to the music business because there's so much money to be made. Those sharks are not making that money anymore, and they're swimming away looking for food in different places. Now, some of the sharks started up companies like Spotify and all those kind of companies. I'm sorry to say this, and I'm probably going to get banned, but now these companies, these corporate entities, are making fortunes, but none of the money is going to artists.
Yeah.
So the artists I know are actually literally starving, and the reason they're doing what they're doing is because they absolutely love it. And the true artist, as I said earlier, it's never been in it for money. It's been in it because it's a burning passion to say what you want to say and share your truth. So
that's what music's about.
So that aspect right there.
Well, I mean, we have heard that. We have probably interviewed about 100 people or so, and that is like their major like complaint about, you know, trying to get money from like Apple, Spotify, any of the ones that are really like out there making money, and then they get just like 0.01, you know, percent of whatever is being played. And like I said, like how do you think that could change for the people that are doing most of the work? Because now people are learning how to like record their own music and going out and, you know, doing their own like legwork compared to what it used to be like, which is that they did all the legwork and you just showed up, you played, you left, you know, and now you don't have that anymore because of like what happened, you know, with COVID and places closing down, and everybody's having to kind of start over again, you know. And I mean, I don't know, like, because you've been in this for a long time and you have met some really incredible people, you know, how do you think that we, not just us, but like the whole music industry could change in order to make it more fair? Because the people that are doing all the work are the artists and the bands, you know, they're not getting the money that they should be, that's owed to them, yet, you know, Spotify, Apple, whoever else are making bank. Yeah.
Yeah, there isn't, at this point, I look at it as a kind of a brave new world scenario. In other words, we're faced with a completely different set of problems to what we had before. The old system is not working anymore. It's not, the record companies are not supporting artists and developing them as they used to. So now it's down to the artist to believe so much in what they're doing that they're going to just keep going despite being poor, despite being starving. And they're actually going to, I see this as a potentially good thing in that the only artists that are really going to surface and endure and actually be able to stay in the business, I sorry to use that word, are people who like absolutely committed to what they're doing. So that is a filtering process, which is in essence a good thing. But at the moment we're in a transition, and a transition is like a rebirth, and birth by nature is painful. So everybody's suffering at the moment, everybody. But I don't believe actually that you can keep true art from emerging. This has been happening all the way through history. I'll give you an example. In Venice, there's a huge renaissance of art explosion in Venice. And the reason that renaissance happened was because there was a silver mountain discovered in Sierra Leone in South America. That that created a whole middle class